What is happening, everybody, man? Thank you guys tuning in to another episode of Expert Mentors Live. Got my man, Mr. Joel Perso, in the house again with us. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. Happy New Year.
You too.
How from your guys's perspective and kind of viewpoint, I mean, what are we seeing as it pertains really, because you talk to agents all day every day, and you talk to a certain kind of agent that's really looking for some leverage to help increase productivity. So there's a different kind of caliber, or a different agent at a different stage in their business. As we're navigating into kind of this new year, a market that a lot of agents haven't seen, a market that we haven't seen in several years. What are the conversations that you guys are having as it pertains to kind of what's going on in the heads of real estate agents across the U.S.?
Yeah, man, great question. And two things jump out, and it's kind of why I threw the title up for our session today. But one is, I mean, definitely seeing some fear, uncertainty with the market, and uncertainty with each business. But the bigger thing that I think we're seeing, and it kind of ties in with uncertainty, but it's a lack of clarity. We're seeing that the people who are coming to us for virtual assistants right now, we're having a lot of conversations that are like, hey, I need this, I need this, I need this. We're doing this new campaign. We got to get this thing going. And we see that kind of classic shiny object syndrome, or looking for the easy button, that kind of thing. But I think it's made a little bit worse by that market uncertainty and a little bit of fear, because I think people are feeling a lot of pressure to figure things out. And that's leading to just working on too many things. And so that's why I wanted to talk about focus and clarity today, because we're seeing a lot of that. And for us in particular at Sphere Rocket, we're going to events constantly, sponsoring events, hosting events. Our founder Justin is speaking at dozens of events. And so we're talking to agents generally who are at an event, trying to grow as a person, as a professional, trying to grow their business, getting a lot of great content, and then not knowing what to do with it, feeling like they have to implement everything. And it's leading to that confusion and that lack of clarity.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And, it's the whole, being kind of lost, confused and insecure, kind of moving into a seasonal shift as well as kind of a market shift. And so, I think that, and we've done, when you're in an environment to where it almost forces you to be reactive, and it takes extra discipline, extra focus to, be proactive. And sometimes it's the whole thing, you and I've talked about it over the years, and just being kind of rewarded for bad behavior. What, as we're talking about moving into the year and really narrowing the focus, what are some of the things or the questions that you're pulling out of people? And then what are some actionable items to help them gain that level of focus that they're really needing if they're wanting to, survive, not only survive, but thrive and continue to gain market share moving into kind of a new market?
Yeah, well, I'll tell the story where the title for today came from, and then it leads right into exactly this question. So at first, I came across an article. It was a story about a 2000 British Olympic rowing team. And this is a team that hadn't won a medal in almost 100 years, had a new captain on the team, and they developed this really simple strategy where every single decision was run through the filter of, does it make the boat go faster? So are we going to skip our workout today? Well, is that going to make the boat go faster? No, it's not. Are we going to go out to the bar today and celebrate? We've had a long week. Is that going to make the boat go faster? Are we going to do this, long, drawn out PR campaign, or all these extra interviews with the press? And is that going to make the boat go faster? The captain of that team ended up writing a book about it. I haven't actually read the book, but I just loved the story, and just the absolute kind of relentless commitment to, does it make the boat go faster? Will it make the boat go faster? So this team in 2000 ends up winning the gold medal again for the first time in almost 100 years. And it was that attitude of no decisions too small to run through this filter. And we're gonna, like I said, relentlessly evaluate everything by this. And so Justin, Sphere Rocket's founder, our CEO, we're having that conversation constantly right now. Does it make the boat go faster? Does it make the boat go faster? And so we've gone maybe even a little extreme, because we're down to one metric that we're focused on right now. And everything we're doing, again, because of some market uncertainty, because of some seasonality for us too in our business, with virtual assistants, we have it down to one metric, and that's Q1, and we're having that conversation constantly. So that's why I picked that title. That article that I read really stuck with me, of running every decision through that filter of, is it going to help you reach your most important goal? Not every business can get down to one metric. In real estate, in a market shift, you probably can get down to one metric. It's probably lead generation. But it really starts with putting in the time and the effort to get clear on what that singular focus is going to be. I don't think you and I will ever have a conversation that we don't bring up right things, right order. So, are you clear on the vision for your company? Are you clear on your core values, on your mission, on your big goals? Are you clear on your strategy? Are you clear on your priorities for the quarter, on your rocks? Are you clear on what the team needs to look like? And then ultimately, are you really clear on the actions you need to take every single day? And so you have to go through that process. But we're treating the market right now and the economy right now almost like a little bit of a wartime mentality, where we've got to be running lean, we've got to be making good decisions, we're taking calculated risks, but we're relentlessly focused on our key metric, which for our company right now it's just appointments booked. We've got our numbers really dialed in, and everything we're doing is get more appointments booked.
Love that. And does that then become the question, is this going to allow us to set more appointments? Is that kind of the does this make the boat go faster? Does this allow us to have more appointments? Is that kind of the way you're using kind of that, phrasing it that way?
Yep, that's exactly right. Is this marketing campaign, is this particular event we might get involved in, is this new initiative going to help us book more appointments? Are we going to get more appointments on the calendar? And if the answer is no, we're taking a real hard look at if that's something we should be involved in or not. Obviously, there's a ton of decisions required every day to run and operate a business. There's fulfillment on the real estate side. You've got to still get your deals closed, but when it comes to our priorities in growing the business, that's it.
I love that. And there was you go back to kind of lack of clarity, focus, and uncertainty, and insecure, and things where most people are at. The one thing that comes to my mind, and it's that definition of clarity is just capacity minus contamination. So increasing our capacity, our knowledge, our understanding around something, minus the limiting beliefs and the contamination, gives us greater clarity. And I think too, less is more. Allows us to focus. That's why I love the one. And I think this also comes back to priorities. And, you've got 3 or more priorities, then you don't have any priorities at all. Yeah. And I think there's some things to be said around, if you're trying to focus on 3 things, the probability of that being true is significantly less than you just focusing on one. And I think it really starts with also, and back to your boat kind of visualization with the boat. I look at, and there was I found it, and I shared it with a couple of people last night, but it was a Nipsey Hussle conversation, and he was talking about the thing that he always would tell his daughter. He would tell his daughters, like, do you know how boats sink? Boats sink because water gets in the boat. And he would always tell her, don't ever let water get in your boat. Don't ever let water get in the boat. And where my head went with that immediately was that not only does that pertain to a project, a business, but it also to your mind. And water could be the negative things, the limiting beliefs, the contamination, the things that aren't true. It's going to change your thinking in a way that's not going to serve you. So how are we intentionally making sure that we're protecting our boat, our mind, from allowing water to come in, negative, disempowering thoughts? And I think that's where it has to start, right? You're talking about, get clear. What's the destination? And when I hear, hey, does it make the boat row faster? If we're not careful, like what you said, the fundamentals of where's the destination, what's the vision, what are we trying to accomplish? It's real easy to get that boat rowing fast, but rowing in the wrong direction. Yeah. And, we've all heard Tony Robbins talk about, you start in LA and you're a couple degrees off and you're trying to go to New York, you end up, hundreds and hundreds of miles away. Yeah. And so I think it's so critical to be precise on where we're going to go. And that's even back to our boat analogy here, is that even like a rowboat, right? We're setting the rudder, right? The rudder is set. Now, what do we got to do to row the boat to make the boat row faster? And back to the British rowing team, hey, our course is set. Our course is precise. It's set. Will we check and make sure we're on course? Yeah, typically, current might push us off a little bit. We might get off, but not too far, not too drastic, but we're able to reset the rudder. But the biggest thing is like, man, what is the effort required for this boat to go faster? What is that effort required? Yeah. What are some things that you would say, you guys are just focused on appointment set. What would you say some things for real estate agents to kind of, maybe what their 1, 2, 3 at most critical measurements numbers need to be to help get their boat rowing faster?
Yeah. Like I said earlier, for most agents right now, especially if you're concerned about the market or you're worried about, what your business is going to look like, it's lead generation. And that's another area, even within that broad scope of where you can lose focus and get off course too, right? It might not be the time to launch a bunch of new campaigns. It might not be the right time to add, pillars to your business. Maybe you've got something that's working and it's time to double down on that. Maybe you already have some, good campaigns going and you need to optimize. So you need to take a careful look at that. But it's so easy when it comes to lead gen, especially, again, we're talking about the loss of focus, loss of clarity, people consuming content, going to events. You're being told you got to do more video. You're being told you need to love on your sphere better. You're being told, hey, buyer leads are back, so you need to make sure you got your pay-per-click campaigns dialed in. You're being told all these things, and they're all true, right? But you can do anything, but you can't do everything,
right?
And so that's the process of getting clear. And I think what's really key in some of the activities here is such a critical time to be connected with the right people. Whether that's you're on a team with a great leader, you're in a brokerage with a great leader, you're in a mastermind group, you have a coach. It's hard to get clear by yourself, but it's much harder to stay on track by yourself. You fall in love with your own ideas, you get convinced of the new thing you need to try out. So having some accountability from other people, whether that's business partners, like I said, mastermind coaches, whatever that is so critical right now, because it is really easy to get off course, and you do hear a whole bunch of things that are working for people and that would probably work for you. You just can't do them all, right? So I think that's really critical. The who in your life is so important when it comes to this topic too.
100%. And I think, those people are the ones that challenge us, challenge our thinking, create the accountability, but also, And I was on the call with Nick Goods, kind of head of company type kind of seat that she's kind of trying to navigate into. And, she shared a KW coaching quote of, people grow into the conversations you have around them. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about that for a second, and it's like, okay, do I have the people around me that are having the conversations that I need to grow into? And it's just a different perspective of like, it goes back to the perfect day exercise. This is a great example of that. When you go through that exercise and it's like, okay, hey, are you eating lunch If you are, who are you having lunch with? With those people, what are you talking about? Like, what's the conversation? And it makes me kind of like, be aware, right? Because we can't make change without awareness. So it creates an awareness of that when you're having those lunch conversations, and it's like, damn, if I had to live this day over and over and over again, I would never have conversations like this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the conversations that we're having is the conversations I can't grow into. And so I think that's just a great reminder. And she said that this morning. I was like, damn, so that's so good, because we talk about right things, right order. We talk about environment, it drives thinking, but it's also selective in who is in that environment that is allowing us to have conversations that allow us to grow, right? It's the whole, five millionaires, you'll be the sixth, but it's also the reverse.
Yeah.
Five broke dudes, you're going to be the sixth broke dude. So it works both ways. And so just making sure you have a choice. You want to be around five broke dudes, or do you want to be around five people, that have an understanding of how to create wealth and create a wealthy life, not just business and money, but really a fully, wealthy life.
Yeah. Man, that's good. I love that. The whole conversation around this too, it reminds me, I was on a podcast recently with Alex Hay from EXP, and he's in the Honey Badger group too, and we were talking about things that trip up new agents. And after we had that conversation, I was kind of thinking about it and thought, well, gosh, that's the stuff that trips up all agents, not just new agents. And a big part of that conversation was the execution piece. Can you sustain the effort over the medium and long term, right? It's easy to get excited about real estate, about a new team, about a new campaign, about a new priority, but it's hard to sustain. And so, it's not, the hard part's not coming up with a good plan. The hard part's sustaining the effort over the long term. And we were talking specifically about coaches, but there's millionaires in every coaching organization, right? The critical piece is choosing the plan, not messing with it, and then executing. And so as we talk about focus too, that's where we're going to lose it. If we're clear, we got clear. Now it's time to execute, and now we have to figure out how to sustain that. We're 3 weeks about into January. We've probably all had our first resistance against our resolutions or our goals or our great plan that we made in strategic planning back in December. And we've come up against the real world and the difficulties, and it's time to sustain through that resistance, and not let that lead us off course, not let us second guess the plan, not let us take our foot off the gas because maybe we're thinking we should have done something else, and now we're going to be split focus. So I think it's time to execute and time to sustain the effort, build the habits.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. What are some of the things that create the sustainability?
I think, and this is a skill you have to develop in the planning process, but you want to be aggressive. You want goals that motivate you and excite you, but you also need to be realistic about your capacity. If you've never cold called before and you said, this is the year that I spend 3 hours a day cold calling every morning and I'm never going to miss it. Well, what reason do we have to think that you're going to be able to sustain that? So you have to be realistic. You have to make sure that your goals are in alignment with your vision and with your purpose as a person and as a business. The hardest thing to overcome in business is working on things that aren't in alignment with who you are and why you exist. So I think that's critical. Environment is so key. You have to be intentional about creating the environment. Like I said, coaches, mastermind groups. Maybe you need to get physically together with a group to do your call nights or your morning prospecting, but be intentional about creating the environment that's going to support that. And then I think you got to look at the numbers every day, especially right now if there's some uncertainty. The reporting rhythm is daily. What activities did you do today? I don't know how the exact quote went, right? But it's like you miss a day, pretty soon you miss a week, pretty soon you miss a month.
Yep.
And now your whole quarter's off track. Now your whole year's off track. So I think the reporting rhythm is daily. You're looking at your activities daily,
Yeah.
making rapid course corrections. Every hour really is a chance to recommit. Certainly every day is a chance to recommit, get back on track.
Yeah.
So make the adjustments quickly when you need to. Make sure you have mechanisms in place to catch those. I still use for a lot of stuff for me, I still use a paper to-do list and a paper tracker of the things that I need to do. If you need to make a certain number of calls, that can be check marks in your notebook if you need it to be. But you have to be looking at it, every day at least.
I agree 100%. I mean, you look at just if you're serious about anything, and so it's like one of the things, if you're committed to getting to a certain weight, right? You need to weigh yourself every morning at the same time and have a place to where you can, document that. And there's a lot of great apps and things out there, just like even one of the things, you really want to get like your diet under control, then okay, well, as much as you're going to hate this, you better track your food. And you better hit macro targets, and you better hit calorie intake, and staying below that certain level. What's a calorie burn rate, right? Like there's all of those things that you have to pay attention to if you're serious about getting to a certain weight level. And I had a client in the nutrition space, and he had his clients focus on calories, steps, and water. That was it, right? They just focused on calorie intake. They focused on water, ounces drank, and then how many steps, and some way to be able to track that. And there are so many ways to be able to easily track that, and then look at it on a daily basis. And there you go. Yeah. 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 And I think too, what that does is that allows you to reassess, what did you do the day before? What adjustments do you need to make today so that we make improvement, we make progress on that? And so using the weight.
Even that example right there is totally in alignment with the whole conversation, right? There's 3 metrics there. There's calories, there's steps, and there's water. I can handle 3 metrics, right? I can't handle 9 metrics.
Yeah. I mean, there was a great, I've been talking about this podcast episode from, it's Ed Milet and Alan Stein Jr. Another John Harp recommendation. It was back in, I think, June of last year. Ed had Alan on Ed Milet show, and he's a high performance coach, and he worked in the NBA space, he worked with Kobe Bryant, he worked with KD, he worked with Steph, and so one of the examples, and this is right in alignment with what we're talking about, because we're talking about, what makes the boat go faster. We're just talking about, really how effective are we being? And, that's really the gists of leadership, and even self-leadership is how effective are you being in making progress towards whatever you're trying to make progress towards. And so what he talks about, and he shared this a couple different ways, but one of the things that really stood out to me is he referenced Queen's University. And I mean, I haven't fact checked this, but this is just kind of what he shared. And he said, Queen's University is like one of the top D2 schools for basketball, and they have like a legendary coach there. I don't know if he's still there or not, but he said what they distilled it down to is to 4 categories that they paid attention to, and they went into every game. And this ties back, right? This makes their boat row faster if they focus on these 4 things. They do it in their conversations. They do it in their training. They do it in their workout. They do it in all prep. They do it in their strategy. All of their effort is built around, and probably even assembling the team around these 4 areas. And one is turnover different ratio, meaning, what's your ability to are you winning the turnover battle in the game? The second thing was offensive rebounds, and we have to win the offensive rebounds, meaning if we get more more offensive rebounds, then that means we have more opportunities to get more possessions. Same thing with the turnovers, right? We're getting more possessions. The third thing was clean shots from three. Being able to have the most clean shots from the 3-point, from outside of 3-point. If we win that, and then 4 was we take more free throws than they do. And what he shared is that when they win all 4 of those in a game, they win the game 97% of the time. So they don't pay attention to, they don't focus on winning. They focus on winning those 4 categories. They don't focus on winning the game. They focus on winning those 4 categories, because if they win those 4 categories, then they're going to win the game 97% of the time, which is damn good at odds, right? And so I think that's kind of what you're talking about. If they win those 4 things, their boat rows faster.
Yeah.
And I think it's finding out what those things are. And so for you guys, what led to, okay, we got to focus on this. What was that decision to focus on getting appointments set?
Yeah. So, I mean, we still track everything. And so the big change was that we brought on a new director of sales December. First thing he did, and this will be music to your ears. First thing he did was just did nothing but dive into our numbers for the first couple of weeks that he was on board. And so what he found was when we look at 2022 in aggregate, our 4 main sales reps all convert about the same rate. We have a pretty consistent show rate for appointments booked versus appointments kept. And then we have a pretty consistent, like I said, conversion rate across all. So it led us to believe, well, the focus for us isn't on increasing conversion. We've got 4 great sales reps. Maybe we could squeeze a couple extra deals out there with some extra sales training. That's not the focus. We need them on more calls. We've got a dialed in process for qualifying appointments and then reconfirming the appointments. So we said, well, that's not really where we need to focus. I'm not sure we can affect the amount of appointments kept versus set in any meaningful way. But what can we do is appointment set. So we worked it backwards to the thing that we believe we can control the best, but that's going to have the most direct impact, all other variables considered, on how many deals. Obviously, the fundamental goal down there is revenue growth, but what can we focus on to move that needle? And it's appointment set. And it's also appointment set is in line with our primary strategies, which are coming from paid advertising and events. So, we look at how do we get more appointments? So, well, maybe it's probably more events, it's bigger events. Let's get Justin on larger stages. And sure, we're looking at what kind of stages we're getting on, what kind of events we're getting involved with. We want to make sure that our ideal client's going to be at that event. So those are all pieces of it, but it's absolutely an appointment set that moves the needle. We know what will happen if we set more appointments, and we've got good data to prove that. So obviously a piece of this is having the numbers we've been tracking. That's something that Justin did really well, kind of from the get-go for us. So that's how we arrived at it.
Yeah, I think it's just you're just closing your eyes and you're picking something if you're not tracking to where it goes. And I know you went through the book and just because of, us kind of all working and collaborating with Vern Harnish for such a long period of time. And, his number one, book recommendation is, The Goal by Eli Goldratt, and told in fable format, but really it's the fable is the story around the theory of constraints. And so understanding that there's a sequence and a process to everything. And so you just, once you know the sequence and the cadence and what it is, it goes back to, and just not to sidetrack us, but when you talk about sustainability, to me, that's knowing the right temperature to cook it at. So for example, you could have, the best cake in the world. You could have all of the world-class ingredients. You have the magic recipe, but if one variable, and the variable is time and temperature, if you don't have time and temperature, you're going to fuck it up.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we try to influence, like, hey, let's crank this bad boy up a little bit. And then what happens? Right? There's that one variable that people miss. And it's like, okay, where does this need to cook in order for it to, in time for us, in order to hit the desired outcome that we know we're striving for. And a lot of that falls into the sustainability side of things. But when you look at it in simple as real estate with sales, too many people get closed on, hey, this is how many deals I need to close. More importantly, even you want to go even bigger into the ego sphere, is this is how much volume I need to be doing. It's like, volume means nothing. Like, volume doesn't tell the story. Your dollar per transaction, what tells the story is the number of units that you need based upon your market averages in order to achieve your revenue and profit goal. And so you look at, you work from there, like you're talking about. It's like, well, I need closed deals and I need to put X number of deals in escrow, because not every deal that goes in escrow comes out of escrow. And then it's like, okay, well, how many people do I need to agree to do business with me in order to be able to get them into escrow? And then it's like, okay, well, how many people do I need to meet with, get face-to-face to be able to articulate my value to where they agree to do business with me? And then it goes back to your key metric that you guys are committed to, is, okay, well, how many appointments do we need to set that if we set, we know we'll be able to meet? And in some people that might not be kind of the constraint. Maybe they need to talk to more people. Maybe that's the number they need to pay attention to. I know Alex Pioch and his team and everything they're doing, that's what they're focused on. They're focused on number of conversations. That's their one metric. And then what are all the ways to have more conversations, and what are the better conversations that we want to have? And because, not every conversation is the same. And it could be like you were talking about, a conversation at an event that doesn't align to who your ideal client is. I mean, you might set some appointments, but they may show up, but we're not going to be able to convert them into actual clients. So being real clear of where your people are. And then, what drives conversations, dials, engagements, text, effort, and then time on task. And I think when you have those kind of laid out, and like Justin did a great job, he was tracking all of that. So you could see what was working, what's not working. And, the whole principle out of the theory of constraints is that there's always a constraint somewhere. And so the point of everybody listening in, that, yeah, they're focused on appointment set. However, there will become a new constraint in the future. Where is it going to go? I don't know. Right. But we have the visibility so we can see, and there's no reason to guess. And I think that's just kind of the principle there of, understanding what's going to make your boat row faster now, but then also have the visibility in there to know when it starts to slow down, what's causing it to slow down.
Yeah. I mean, two thoughts there too, to take it a little bit deeper. Like our big constraint at the end of last year was, because our primary strategy is through events, trying to get Justin speaking from stage. Our primary constraint with setting more appointments was, we got to get Justin in front of more people. There's an obvious time bottleneck there, right? It's just, that's one person speaking from stage. So what do we do? We either look for rooms that have a higher percentage of our ideal client, or we're just looking for bigger rooms. And a lot of times that's what we're doing right now. Is, so how do we solve that bottleneck? Well, in the short term, I mean, it will always become a bottleneck again, because eventually the stages don't get any bigger. But for right now, if we can take our average event that we're involved with from 100 to 500 attendees, we're removing that bottleneck for now. And then on your point, I love the conversations metric. One of the great things about real estate that gets overlooked a lot, and I don't think talked about enough, I don't remember who I heard say it first, probably you or Jay, but like real estate's been debugged. Like, it is not a mystery about the activities that will lead to the results, right? There's still variables, of course, but real estate as an industry, what it takes to be successful in real estate, everything's there for you, right? If you don't have your own data yet, there's plenty of great data. Get somebody else in your market, get another team at your brokerage, another team within EXP to share their data with you. What are their conversion numbers? You can absolutely work it backwards from your income that you need, to your deals, to your contracts, to your listings, to your appointments, to your conversations, to your, you can work it all the way back and know the daily activities that you need to do. And then there's your focus, right? It's not a mystery about how to be successful in real estate. There's a lot of ways to do it. And so, of course, again, alignment, you have to pick the way that's in alignment with your goals, with your values, with your purpose. But it's one of the powerful things about being in real estate that I think doesn't get talked enough about, is it's not a mystery anymore. It is, the success
simple.
in real estate has been solved, and you
Oh,
are, you can plug into that and just work the system.
yeah. Yeah. I think where, understanding that framework, I think the biggest thing is that, people move away from, and that scares them, is the effort piece, right? To make the boat go faster. You still got to row the boat, right? No matter what, you've got to row the boat. You've got to get it building some momentum. You've got to get it going, or, where you're like, well, I'm not going to row it. I'm going to have this horsepower on the back of this boat. Well, that's a motor. You're still going to have to build it. And then you're going to have to provide fuel for it. That's going to drive it and keep it performing at the highest of levels. So what does that look like, right? What is the machine and the fuel that powers the machine in order to get your boat, going faster? And I think it's just another way to think about it, in that regard.
Yeah, that's a great analogy too, because that's, once you have a motor on it, maybe that's like your team. Little decisions are more impactful too. So you get off course faster when you've got a more powerful engine. When you have that team, you have to be even more conscious of the focus, the clarity, and staying on track. And I think you're right. A lot of people are afraid of the effort, especially because it's when we had our brokerage, we always said there's a tipping point at 5 years in the business. If you're active and productive, there's a tipping point at 5 years where you're starting to get more referrals, you're starting to get repeat business, you're being taken more seriously, you have got a reputation, all these things. And it's like, hey, can you sustain it for 5 years? We'd have those conversations with people. You don't want to burn yourself out, but can you sustain it until you hit that tipping point where you start to really get some momentum in your business? And we would say, like, hey, there's a constant spectrum here of like your time and your money. And if you've got more time than money, you just need to get back to work. If you've got more money than time, now you need to start looking at how do you spend that money to get your time back so you can work on the higher dollar activities. But if you find yourself with time in the day, find a way to spend it generating leads for yourself or having more conversations or whatever your metric is. And if you truly have time and nothing else going on, there's really not anything that's too small to tackle, right? Maybe it's a networking event, maybe it's door knocking, maybe it's cold calling, whatever it is. But if you've got time to invest, start there. And one of the cool parts about business is, as you develop, your time into success, and that leads to the money, now you can invest that money in your business. And when that starts happening, it's a lot of fun having a real estate business or any business where you're investing in growing a team and getting better tools for yourself and your team. And now you can buy yourself the ability to work on only the things that you love and only the things that you're best at. And that's an exciting prospect, but there's definitely a spectrum there that, of investing your time and investing your money, and which one you have more of.
Yeah. And I think that's a great way to even think about that, because a lot of people understand the concept of, return on investment. And then we hear, okay, well, what's my return on time? And I would say, well, what's my return on my time invested, right? Like you said, more time than money. And a lot of people don't value their time like they do their dollar investments. And I would argue with them that their time investment is more important than their money investment. And so when you allocate that time, what's the return that you're getting on it? Because it's an investment, right? Where am I investing my time, and what am I getting? What is my return on it? And I think when you shift that little perspective, I think it makes you more intentional and guard against somebody stealing your investment. And we've all heard it, right? And it's laughable when you sit back and until it pisses you off. is that, you would fight somebody if they took your investment or they stole money from you, yet you allow people to, hamper the return on your time or steal your time, yet you allow it.
Yeah.
And until you value it, nobody else will. And I think that's the greatest thing is really protecting that time and not letting anybody steal it. And I think that also comes back to focus, kind of what you said in the beginning, is that they allow people to take it because they don't know what they should be focused on.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And it's also, it's easy to fool yourself, right? Are you going to your fourth lunch and learn this week, but you haven't made any calls yet? Like, yeah, of course it's great to invest in your, in your personal and business development, but it's easy in this business to feel like we're working when really what we're doing is putting off the things that we know we're supposed to be doing. And that comes back to, the clarity, the focus, and the accountability.
Yeah. Yeah. It's real simple, right? We either are being effective, meaning we're making progress or achieving or getting results, or we're not. And if we're not, we're just being busy. And that's the difference between, busyness and productivity is, we're getting results that are moving us closer to where we want to be, right? We're getting the results that matter, right? You guys have a threshold of number of appointments that we need to set. We're either setting those or we're not. If we're not, then we're not being as productive as we have the capabilities to be. And what's slowing us down? What's that resistance? Or what's that anchor that we're trying to drag in this damn boat, right? We're trying to get this boat moving, but that anchor's slowing us down. And so what do we got to do to remove the anchor so we can continue to go faster?
Love it.
For sure. Brother, I appreciate you jumping in and just kind of breaking apart the whole kind of where agents are struggling, where they need to be thinking about. And, really what this whole Expert Mentor series is about is just coming in, adding a ton of value and really helping, the Honey Badger Nation to really get unstuck and remove these things that are causing the resistance, the drag, and allow them to find, the momentum to get the boat moving faster. So as always, man, just I love our conversations. Appreciate you jumping in, and people that you guys listening in. If you haven't had an opportunity to connect with Joel, he's been on several of the podcasts on Expert Mentors. I've had him over on kind of more of a reflective conversation with the Coach Code conversations. And we've had the opportunity to know and work with Joel for many a years now. And definitely one of the smartest cats on the planet, and definitely an understanding around operations and the business side of things at a high level. So if you guys haven't connected with Joel, do so. Joel, what's the best way to get with you?
Yeah, find me on Facebook, Joel Perso, or email joel@sphererocket.com. Those are the two best ways for me, for sure.
For sure. Appreciate you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys give Joel lots of love, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Coach.
See ya.